few minutes. Thanks.
Okay. And hi folks. Welcome to our webinar sent from Theben Studios here in Haigerloch. My name is Elmar, assisted by my colleague Christopher, and we prepared some interesting topic, I assume, for you today, which is sun tracking or sun blinds control in that terms. Which kind of products we are using today? In this heading, approximately half an hour. So we do use, for instance, a push button to control blinds up and down. We are using a blinds actuator, JMG 4T, and we are using for sure the weather station, which is required for our application today. Let's go ahead. So what does it mean? It means nowadays the term of shading control becomes more and more of interest, especially when it comes to energy efficiency and so on. And the method is finally that the blind's positioning is according to the sun positioning. And this is highly efficient. And how to set up, how to do so, I will want to make you acquainted with. So, you know, during the year, during the seasons, we do have different positioning of the suns. So the azimuth and the elevation changes during the season. And that means the sleds positions are accordingly following exactly this position. So the sleds are adapting automatically. What is the effect? The effect is finally that you get the maximum of natural daylight in the room, but you get as well, and this is what is required, the maximum of the sun protection to avoid any kind of dazzle, and as well to avoid that the room inside is heating up too much, and if so, you need air conditioning to work against. And if you have a smart solution, so the sun control with sun tracking is assisting you, helping you. I will make you acquainted with. So this means finally, we do have here the weather station. Let's take this one here again. And if you put the weather station exactly at that spot of a building, so then we do have here 3 different sensors, light sensors. So that means when the sun is rising and moving around the building, like here, so then you can separately start the set of the blinds here. When the sun is here in the noontime, then the shading starts here as well, drives the blinds down, positions the blinds, and when the sun is going to the westerly side, the blinds are moving down accordingly. So you can do 4 facades. 4? Not really. Because this powerful weather station is giving you finally in total 8 options to control 8 facades. Why 8? If you take a U as a shape of a building and if you count, so then in total you do have 8 different facades. And with this powerful weather station, you can control, you can support this shading control perfectly. I will make you later on acquainted with the application settings. And as you know, usually we do have at the end of this, let's say, theoretical part of our webinar, we do have here a practical part. So I will show you accordingly so how the principle is working. So this energy efficiency is depending on brightness. Energy efficiency in terms of sun protection is depending on brightness. And if you have a powerful controller, that means in this case the shading actuator or the blinds actuator. So these blinds actuator from Theben are supporting you with temperature control. So that means depends on how the temperature is inside of a room, however. So the slats are positioning or the position in total. So the height of the blinds can be different, supporting you in heating support or in cooling support. Yeah, so how you have to imagine. So for instance, we assume this one is here finally a room. So someone is popping up and it's not popping up, the sun is rising, sorry, and we increase, or the brightness is increasing. So for instance, the set brightness is approximately 10,000 lux. Sun is rising, so the sensor discovers, okay, we do have here these threshold, and then the blinds move down and turn the slats to the reasonable position which you have preset in the application, in order to protect the room, avoiding that the temperature inside is increasing too much. So if someone is entering this room, controlled by a preset sensor on top of the room, so what you expect, okay, if the light condition inside is probably not that good, so you get artificial light to illuminate your working area. And energy efficiency? Not really, because you close the blinds to avoid dazzle, to avoid any kind of, let's say, infrared warmth from the sun, heating up the room inside, but you are wasted energy with the artificial light. And with the sun tracking, so you do the following. When the sun is rising, changing its position during the day, the blinds here are opening. The slats are turning, and due to that, if you have a smart solution, a clever solution, so inside you do not have a light control which is switching on off. Most best is if you have a light control which is giving you the perfect light control, which is daylight control or constant light control. So when the slats are opening more, because of the sun is changing the position, is now in a higher position, so you get more natural daylight inside. The sensor here above is discovering and then starting dimming down. So it's balancing exactly, so the inside light and the external light, which is giving for free. So this is the maximum energy efficiency, maximum of blinds control or shading control, and the maximum of light control from the inside. So a perfect couple, let's say this way. And that's the way how finally it works. And this I can deeply recommend. So if you have such, so this blinds control with the sun tracking, so I recommend deeply to install inside constant light control. Then you are really energy efficient. You got me? So, well, what are the preconditions? What we need finally to get such a sophisticated solution. So we need some details to the building. So how is the alignment of the building? How many facades we shall or we have finally to shade, to give the shading control, however. And for such things, we need to know finally, so how is the facade direction? So that means you need, in these terms, you need a compass, could be a real one, could be an app, however, and you put your back in the back of the facade, and then watch carefully, so how is the positioning of this building, and this value you have to type in here, because the weather station needs to know where the sun is rising and where the sun is setting finally. This is a precondition which we need to know and which we have to implement in our application. For that purpose that you see, we do have here this sun control. This is the application in the ETS. And the sun control, by the way, has to be set in the general application settings. Otherwise, you do not get these details of sun control. And in the sun positioning or sun position and tracking, Here you have to type in exactly the positioning of the building. If this value is wrong, so don't wonder if the positioning of the slats is not fitting, first of all, and second, probably you do have some mistakes in terms of when the sun shading or the sun protection starts in general. Yeah, if there is the wrong facade adjusted, so don't wonder if it would not run. So in this setting you have to do for each of the facade. So southerly side, westerly side, northerly sides, however. So for that purpose you have to open more than just one sun protection channel. So for that purpose you need another one, yeah, or probably you need another one. You get me? And exactly followed here you will get the same application, yeah, which I want to make you acquainted. Here you do have the settings finally, and here you have to adjust the slats conditions. You need to adjust finally the spacing of the slats. However, I will make you acquainted later on. Yeah, back to this. So this is what we need basically. Then we need again we need to know so the different facades direction, south, west, east, north, however, yeah. And accordingly to that, so we can separately control these different facades. Yeah, you got me? In general, pretty simple. Then we need additionally the current date. So if it is January, if it is December, however, this we need to know. Then we need to know exactly, so how is the current time in your area that the weather station can calculate on his own. So how is the condition and how is the positioning at that spot where this weather station is installed on this current situation, on this current time. There is a huge database inside, and the weather station is as powerful that she can calculate on his own, on her own. So when the sun is rising, what is the positioning and what is the most, let's say, yeah, effect on terms of dazzle, however, yeah. So that means we need as well further details, which is the run times of the blinds. So that means we need to know so how long it takes time to run down the blinds here. Depends of, yeah, it's always related to the dimensions of the blinds. We need as well to know the slats turn. So how long it takes time to open fully, to close fully the slats. Important to know. And as well we need the width, the dimensionings of the slats, because it makes a big difference if you have such small slats like that, or if you have the big sized ones, which are in general approximately 60 up to 80 millimeters. And this makes a big difference and has a deep impact on the sun control. So due to that we have to type this in, we have to insert this in the application settings of the weather station. So that means we have here exactly, this is the spacing between slat and the next heading slat. Then we need to have the width, so that means the dimension of these slats finally. And this one here, reserve for safe shading. This is not related to the slats, however, but this is related to the installation position finally. So imagine you do have, for instance, a building on top of a hill. Yeah. So that means the impact, the influence of the natural daylight of the sun finally is totally different if you use this kind of sun tracking down in the valley. Because the angle and the influence of the natural daylight is definitively total different, yeah. But the location on the earth may be probably the same, but the effect of the sun is different. And if you do discover some, let's say, glare, however, on top of a hill, so with this reserve you can give another 5 or 10% to close a little bit more, yeah, accordingly to the standard calculated values. Okay, you got me? That's the reason why we do have here this. But this is essentially to finally to get at the end of the day a really good, let's say, result. And definitively I want to remind, so when you do, let's say, blinds control, don't forget to install or to set up finally the alert function. So that means if the wind speed is too high, to raise all the blinds, avoiding that they are probably destroyed by a heavy storm or by a heavy wind. However, don't forget that. Otherwise, it will be rather costly. Okay? So in regards of the blinds actuators, we do have from Theben different options, either the RF-based sensors or controllers, actuators, which is in origin of size, probably better. We do have here a better contrast. So this is original size. This is RF control, or same size, this one is twisted pair, a single actuator, or if you want 4-fold, or the big sized one, the double one, is 8-fold shutters and blinds control. And these actuators, all these, flush mounted or DIN-rail mounted, they are supporting you with heating and with cooling support, which is highly interesting and best energy efficient. We have to distinguish two things, just for all those who have probably not that deep experience with it. We do have two different settings in terms of the drives. So that means we do have electromechanical drives, which needs finally to have these, let's say, running time. Here you have to preset in the application the running times, and we do have here so-called electronic motors. So they are doing current metering. So when they are fully down, so there is a current metering inside, and when the current is going down, there is no, let's say, load, let's say this way. So then this motor knows exactly, so that's the end of my position. And when he is rising in a teach-in mode and is finally at the upper position and pulling finally, so then the current is increasing, and so the actuator knows, or the motor knows, okay, this obviously is my upper position. It's a quite smart solution, but you need to know as well, so these electronic drives or these motors with the electronic circuit board, these are, in comparison to the electromechanical drives, rather costly. So a plus of 40% approximately is not unusual. So, and this has to be set. You see here on the application up there. So electromechanical drive or electronic drive, this you have to set up during, let's say, the integration process. Then, but we can do it more easy and more, let's say, cost efficient, because our actuators, especially the DIN-rail actuators, they do have a really, I would like to say, a smart solution to do a teach-in. So that means probably you have a facade with the same dimensions of the windows, like here, and this facade is equipped with, don't know, 10 or 20 windows, however, all the same size. So you can link these group addresses together. You can start the teach-in function with the bit objects. So you can do it with a bus monitor, or you can, for instance, do it with a push button, send 1, so then teach-in is starting. And then finally, with the down, pressing the down, so now you run down all the blinds and stop at a reasonable position. So then these actuators know exactly how is the drive time. So one of these actuator channels has to be the master. This is exactly what we need here, or what we're using here. One is channel 1, for instance, he is sending the time. And to channel 1, for instance, this push button is allocated. And this is, let's say, the master. And the other ones, so these ones here, for instance, so these ones are just as a kind of slave. So when you put it just together in one group address, So the master sends the time of the running and the slaves just listening, so how long it takes time, and they take automatically over these running times. So you have not to adjust or to modify. And if you discover if there is a difference of probably in the running time, so you have probably to give another 1 or 2 seconds, however, so you do it just once for all these 20 windows. So you save money and you save a lot of time. You get me? Smart solution made by Theben. Yeah, and what you need to know, this is what I meant. You can get, if you like, but it's not the term of today, you can get a cooling support, heating support from our shutters and blinds controller. Yeah. So that means the positioning is automized and optimized. Again, it's not the term of today, but we do have the option. Yeah, well, so just a few words to the weather station. Like mentioned, we do have here these 3 sensors. We do have on the bottom side this wind wheel. We do have here as well, I think you see here, this temperature probe, which is giving you the ambient temperature. And we do have here a rain panel for all that regions where it becomes during the winter season rather cold, like here for instance, and you need, for instance, the heating of this rain panel. So probably during the nighttime you get some snow. However, it became cold, rather cold, and this snow is frozen on the rain panel, and you want to avoid next morning, probably it's again cold, but probably the sun is shining. So then you can de-ice this rain panel and can give a reason, or you can manually start however you want to do. And you can start your shading control if there is a lot of sun, but outside again it is rather cold, and due to that you need the heating. So for that purpose you need to know that we do have here the bus communication, assuming you can see, yeah, and we do have here 24 volt DC. So that means the other 2 cables, so the yellow and the white ones, you apply here, and the black and the red ones you apply here, and that's it. And with these 24 volt which you have to apply, so you do the heating for the rain panel. And by the way, you discover here a specific tool which is special for poles. Yeah, so you put it around a pole, you tilt it to the right position. Yeah, so westerly side or however. Yeah, you fix it with the screws, and then you put just the weather station upon, you slip it over the socket, and that's it. Yeah, and this is an ideal tool to install outside on poles or pole mast. Okay, and yeah, this we talked about. And physically, you discover here, we do have here some, let's say, communication objects. You can visualize each value from each of these brightness sensors separately. You can display if rain or not. You can display the wind speed, for instance, as a physical value. You can display, if you like, the ambient temperature measured outside, yeah, if you want to know. And date and time depends. Here I do have, yes it is one, we do have here, for instance, a solution where a GPS module is installed. So the GPS module is down here. So for this purpose, we do not need any additional group addresses in terms of, yeah, you have to have from NTP server or from however or wherever date and time. You get it automatically here from this GPS module, which is inbuilt in the weather station. We do have either or, with and without. And you discover here, just by the sudden, so you discover here that this, let's say, transparency of this weather station is really a smart solution. You discover here in the background, you discover here, so due to this transparency, so this weather station is not that dominant because it's mirroring the color of a facade, for instance, and that's quite smart and looks really nicely on a facade. Yeah, and yeah, this is exactly what I meant at the beginning. So these 8 facades. So if you count exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 from the back side. So that means we do have here all options. You can do here either just, let's say, yeah, threshold switching according to brightness. So and then run the blinds down. You can do temperature control, ambient temperature control, can preset values, thresholds. However, you can finally use wind to detect the wind speed, however, and further on. And there is a logic link inside. In total 10 logic links, which you can use, which you may use as well. Yeah, wind is safety channel, and that's what we need finally. We need, especially for the safety aspects of the weather station, or safety aspects in regards of the blinds. So for that purpose, I have here implemented this universal channel, this universal switching. And this universal switching finally, I go to the associations, you see it's storm alert. And storm alert finally is giving you a feedback. Either visualize, so with a flashing of a display, however, so there's heavy storm ongoing, or you can use it as well to rise the blinds. This we will definitively do later on. Yeah, this is the purpose of exactly these universal channels. And these universal channels, in terms of, let's say, the wind, probably you may use, especially when you have high-rise buildings or multiple floor buildings. So, you know, if the weather station is installed here on top of the building, so the wind is definitively heavily on top of the building. If you measure further down, so then the wind is not that strong anymore. So if you like, you can do the rising of these blinds, depends on the different level of the wind speed. So probably the wind speed on top, you adjust to 10 meters per second, yeah? Then the blinds are rising on top of the building. The third floor here in this example, you set to 12 meters per second, so then the wind on top has to be further strong to rise finally that blinds and further on, so that finally at the end, when you have on top of the building 16 meters per second, so then probably it's enough as well to, or it's time enough to rise these blinds as well. So you can do it in cascades, however. Here we talked about, yeah. And then, so how we can start this, let's say, smart operation on this principle. You can do it in different ways. Either, you see here, via dusk and dawn. So that means you have the chance to preset which brightness level, for instance, the sun protection shall start. Or you do it via object, like here. So then you take a push button, you take a time controller, for instance, which is giving you the reasonable command. It's a bit command to start this automatism finally. Okay, it's up to you. So where you can set or where you can preset, however, to the parameters. So sun control, here you can decide exactly, yeah. And reaction on sun control on. So you can do sun control on and rise. Do not rise until dusk and dawn. And sun control on, but not driven. So that's the positioning, what you can do when you get on command. Pardon. So reaction on, on off. So you can do here, and this is probably to be recommended. So when the sun control is off, or when we are below the dusk and dawn setting, so then the blinds run down, turn the slats, giving you the privacy from the outside. Yeah, it's up to you how you want to do. When we do have an undershooting of the preset, let's say brightness level you adjust one step up here. So this is, for instance, your brightness level, which you can adjust for the shading control. And if probably you are underneath this level, so then, for instance, you can rise. Yeah, so this is the option what you can do. Or probably if you don't want to have these probably up and downs, however, during the daytime you do have a cloudy day or however, so then probably the real value is always swiveling around your preset value of 10,000 lux or so. So then probably the blinds or the slats are running up and down. However, when the sun is there, it runs down. When the sun is off and the clouds are there, though it's running up. And if you want to calm down this, so then you can set here no reaction or just adjust the slats. So when there is a cloudy day or cloud at the moment, so then just open the slats and that's it. It's up to you, or it's up to your client. However, he definitely will give you the reasonable values for his desires. Some special assignment which you have to do or which you can do. So just as an example, you do have here a building, and this building finally is probably left and right side. You see here some trees. The sun is coming from this side, is rising from this side, but you do have here some hinderly obstacles in front of the building. So then you can adjust here, for instance, so before the facade and after the facade. So when the blinds shall start to give you the reasonable shading and when it shall stop the shading. Yeah, makes sense just to have the shading in between this angle, in this case of 110 degrees, and this you can adjust, just in case if. Yeah, where you can do so, you can adjust this exactly in this position here. It is before the facade and after the facade. Finally, here you can adjust, here you can set the reasonable values. Yeah, back to that. How is the group addressing? It sounds rather complicated and rather, yeah, let's say sophisticated. It is in general, but in regards of the assignment, the group addressing and so on, it's not that real difficult. So I prepared here, let's say, a good chart, I think, which is giving you finally a good overview about the settings which are required. So what has to be linked to which communication object between the shutters and blinds control or the actuator and the weather station in this case. So you see here object by object what has to be assigned. In real, it looks like that. So probably we can do it in such a way. So I do have here this. You see here step stop, height, lamella, status. So we need here shutters and blind. This is just for visualizing on a display how is the current positioning of the blinds. You see here lamella positioning. This is definitely important for the automatic control. So you need from the weather station the slats position. The weather station is sending that. Here we need the communication to the shutters and blinds actuator. We need the height coming from the weather station, and we need the reasonable height received from the actuator, and we need manual operation. I think nobody will accept that you do have a totally full automized solution. So in all the buildings, even private solutions, or if it is a public building or school, however, so there is always a demand to operate manually, and due to that you'd have to definitely to give a up and a down to the reasonable shutters and blinds control. Then we need the sun protection. The sun protection we need to give via, in my case I took the EON, giving the IO command to the meteor data to start the sun protection. And I set finally here a communication object. In a few seconds we will need it or we will use it. Here I just adjusted in the weather station, receiving an external lux value, and this I use finally to display you, to show up how finally it works, the weather station acts when we do have an overshooting of the reasonable brightness. So that's more or less all what we need. Some values which we can display: ambient temperature, wind speed, brightness, center, rain, yes, for instance, if you want. So this we need to know. So we need to display finally the wind speeds sent on the EON 108, and this is just the value which we send, but I don't use it here in my demonstration finally. Yeah, more or less that's it. So it's not that much. Okay, so now I turn to the presentation. So looking forward to it, that everything is running smooth and we are close to the end. So what I need to do is I need to show you here the the shading control. So I open here exactly the sun protection. Then the sun protection is started, you see here. Okay. So then back to my presentation. So then I need to give the reasonable time. So I modify the time to, let's start at 7 o'clock, and I write this time. Then I need to, for instance, to modify that you see some reasonable, let's say, changes. I turn to July as an example, 12th of July, and I write this as well. So then the weather station knows now exactly. Now currently the situation is, the month is 12th of July. We do have the current daytime of 7:45. So, and then we need, okay, to have some brightness value. So brightness value, currently we are definitively underneath the preset value. And for that purpose, I need to send a value. So 12,000 lux, just as an example. And for that purpose, okay, I write this now, and the panel is moving down now the blinds to the reasonable preset position. Okay? Okay, shading control, the slats turn. Currently we do have the lamella positioning of 36%. Okay, it's quite good. So now, what I'm doing now is 030. So now I modify, okay, it's the same time like my computer do have. And again, so it's the same time now of my computer, you see here. So I do it manually back to 7:10, just as an example. So then nothing happens. Okay, then we give 8 o'clock and I write to that. Okay, now you see the position of the slats has modified. I give another value, so that means now it's 9 o'clock, and send the value, and you see the slats turn to 46%. Yeah, and at 10 o'clock, for instance, it turns again. So probably we can do, let's see this. No, we can't see it. I will show later on. So then we do have 10 o'clock, and I modify to 11, and you see now the slats position is 50%, so it's horizontally. Yeah, again, so I try to show it in such a way. So now we have 50%, so I count down now, so you see the reverse function. So that means we do have here the different positioning of the slats. Yeah, I modify now the time again, and you see how the slats are currently, according to the time, moving, giving you the maximum sun protection from that side. Yeah, when the sun is coming from that side and during the noontime. So we do have definitively the most best protection. So you discover here as well the weather station and the weather station is giving us finally, so I move a little bit to that side. So we do have here the weather station, and the weather station here finally is caring now about the wind speed. And if I move now the weather station, so then you see the blinds are rising. The delay time is kept really, really short. So that means we do have here finally immediately, let's say, the last position. Yeah, but you know how it works finally. And I try to give you now the reasonable setup. So I've inserted here and here the alert function. So if I do now the following, so then the alert function is giving me here, is giving me a flashing in the display, and probably you discover here as well that we do have here a flashing. So this could be from the inside or to the inside, can give you, for instance, information. So how is the condition outside? So the blinds are rising because of the wind speed, of the extreme wind speed. However, highly efficient and rather, let's say, simple, if you know now how to do, to adjust, to set up finally the perfect shading control. And you know now how to do. Looking forward to see you next time.